This woman survived a disaster just because she forgot to fasten her seatbelt. Not long after the plane took off, the cabin suddenly started shaking violently. The next second, a huge hole was torn open in the plane. Passengers in the back rows were instantly sucked out into the sky. Because the woman wasn't wearing her seatbelt, she was thrown out of her seat and began rolling uncontrollably. At the critical moment, her boyfriend grabbed her and tried to pull her back. But the plane was shaking so violently that they quickly lost their grip. She desperately held onto nearby objects and reached out for him again. But in the next second, the plane broke apart and her boyfriend vanished into the air. Before she could react, the cockpit also tore away. The section she was in started falling straight down. She knew her chances of survival were almost zero, but she refused to give up. She held onto everything she could, trying to keep her balance. Then another violent impact hit, and when she came to her senses, she had been thrown back into her seat. Realizing this, she quickly fastened her seatbelt. After that, all she could do was pray. Soon, the aircraft crashed straight into a forest. Unbelievably, she survived. Staring at the shattered wreckage, she couldn't believe she was still alive. But then a sharp pain shot through her leg. She forced herself up and saw the horror. A metal beam had pierced straight through her left leg. Stranded in a remote forest, she knew one thing: if she wanted to live, she had to rely on herself. Clenching her teeth, she grabbed the metal beam with both hands and pulled it out of her leg, screaming in pain. She tore part of her dress and tightly wrapped her leg to stop the bleeding. Then she slowly stood up and shouted for help. There was no response, only silence. She noticed a passenger in the back and thought they were unconscious. But when she got closer, she realized they were already dead. At that moment, she felt completely helpless. She had only wanted to go on a honeymoon with her boyfriend, and instead, everything turned into a nightmare. Exhausted, she soon passed out. Not long after, she woke up when a mosquito bit her. Through the haze, she heard the sound of a helicopter. It was a search and rescue team. Hope flooded her heart. She pulled a scarf from a dead passenger and staggered out of the wreckage. She reached an open area and waved the scarf with all her strength, but the helicopter flew past. The pilots were distracted and never saw her. Watching her only chance disappear, she collapsed to the ground in despair. Still, she refused to give up. She believed the rescue team would come back. She decided to return to the wreckage and wait, but then she froze in terror. Inside the plane, a wolf was feeding on the bodies. She stood perfectly still, barely breathing, afraid that even the smallest sound would turn her into the next victim. She slowly stepped backward, but accidentally snapped a branch. The sound caught the wolf's attention. It turned and began walking toward her. Just as she thought her life was about to end, the helicopter suddenly roared overhead again. The frightened wolf fled into the forest. She survived once more, but after that, she never dared return to the wreckage. With nowhere to go, she sat down nearby, constantly scanning her surroundings, terrified that the wolf might come back. And that's when she suddenly noticed something that made her heart stop.